Welcome. My name is Patrick Rolf, and this is a little bit of an unusual coffee with April. So, as you know, normally we record all of our videos in our store in Copenhagen. This time, I'm out traveling a little bit. We're in Seoul doing a coffee pop up and the launch of April Utility. So, we decided to try this format, which is basically the format where I usually use when I record and share through Patreon, right? So it gives you a little bit of insight in what we do on Patreon as well, which is a little bit more informal. It's a little bit more of a conversation, um, which has a lot of advantages as well. The thing is, the April team was in Milan last week, and now I'm sitting in Seoul. So we haven't had time to record the videos the way we normally do. But what we want to do here is to give you a little bit of a recap, a little bit of an insight in what was happening in Milan during the World Coffee Championships. And if you're still watching this video, you see that the quality as well is not what we're used to here at April, which we apologize for, but I'm literally recording from my computer. Anyway, so Milan, we were in Milan to coach some of the competitors, to host a pop-up at Loste, a beautiful little specialty coffee shop and pastry baker, good friends was from Copenhagen. And first of all, it was exciting and really, really fun to actually be out seeing the coffee community again, right? So obviously COVID has made traveling challenging, and we now got the opportunity to actually come out and see the world again, meet a lot of our coffee friends, which we really appreciate. And we want to thank all of you that took the time to also swing by our pop-up, which is really appreciated. Now, when it comes to the coffee championships, most of you that have been following us know that I have a little bit of a special relationship to them. I'm very supportive of the coffee competition, coffee community. I think that's something everyone should do. There's no reason why you work in coffee and not compete in coffee. Competing makes you better, and that should be something that we all strive for. Now, there's a few interesting observations from the competitions. Before we move into that, we want to give a special congratulations to Diego Campos, that won the World Barista Cup from Colombia, and Matt Winton, representing Switzerland, previously representing Sweden, winning the World Brewers Cup. So big congratulations to them and all of the other competitors as well. I think we saw some great things going on in the competitions. One of the more interesting things is that we're seeing a very clear new trend that hasn't been around in competitions in this amount for quite some time. One of them being blending. So blending is back, both in Barista, but also in the Brewers Cup, which might be the more surprising thing. But actually, out of the 6 finalists in the World Brewers Cup, we have 3 people actually blending their coffee. Slightly different ways, to be fair, but they're still blending. So this is kind of an interesting observation. We saw a few others that blended coffees as well that didn't make it to the final, but still scored really, really well. So it's an interesting trend, and I'm sure the Matt Winton and also the representative of Japan and Canada in the final would be able to answer more questions if you write them personally. I myself will be writing them and asking, because I think it's quite interesting. And I've tried all of the coffees of the people competing in the final, and I'm happy to say that the World Brewers Cup is moving towards a cleaner taste experience. Some exceptions, as always, but in general, from what I'm looking at, what happened in Boston, the coffee profiles, the green coffees used are much cleaner. I think in general, much better. So I think we're getting better at picking cleaner, more sustainable, tastier green coffees to compete with. And I think that's really interesting. So we will be following what's happening in the brewers. Now, in Barista, similar trend here. We see a lot of blending. We see a lot of interesting varietals that are not Arabica. Maybe that was one of the larger trends. We see Ingenuities everywhere. I'm not I lost count over how many competitors actually used it. Some used it as a single. Other people blended it. But there was a lot of Ingenuities going on overall across the board in the whole competition. Now, for those of you that don't know, andrew is basically a separate species of coffee, so it's not Robusta or Arabica, and it's very famous for basically its sweetness. It's very hard to make it too acidic, which then in a barista competition makes a lot of sense because one of the biggest issue there is the taste balance in the espresso. So we saw a lot of that. We saw a lot of Liberica, which is interesting as well. It feels like barista is kind of flirting with the Robusta world again, which is an interesting one. I'm looking forward to see what will happen there. But interesting competition, beautiful presentations. Barista this year was a little bit of a challenge because of the COVID rules. That didn't affect Brewers Cup so much, but Barista Cup had to basically be done in a certain way. The judges had to sit in a certain way, which may not have been what the competitors initially have actually worked on, especially since they just a few years ago opened up the opportunity to have the judges seated in different ways depending on what they're up for. Yeah, I think these were the more interesting observations. There was some really great competitors, beautiful presentations. As always, I feel the coffee community is still moving forward. I want to thank all the competitors that actually took their time to come to Milan. A lot of people didn't, understandably as well. It's COVID. It's a time you perhaps don't want to travel so much or don't feel secure doing it. And yeah, and we're looking forward to bring the April team down to Melbourne next year and see what's going on there. And hopefully competitions around the world is going to go back on track and we can all be competing as per usual. Now, as I mentioned, this was a little bit of a different video than before. We wanted to do a little bit of a recap on the World Coffee Championships in Milan. I'm recording this live from Seoul, which is not the perfect setup when it comes to sound quality or video quality. But this is a fair representation of what we do for Patreon. So any of you that want to have more kind of open, more frequent conversations with me, Patreon is the way to do it. That's why I answer all of my coffee questions. That's where we have all of the coffee dialogues. So I really recommend signing up. I'm more than happy to answer any questions you might have. And with that, we want to thank you for watching, and we'll promise to be back in Copenhagen soon to do some proper recordings as per usual. Thank you.
We want to give a special thank you to all of our Patreon supporters. It's because of you that we are able to continue to make these videos. And we want you all to feel free to always come with suggestions and ideas on the content that you want to see because we are doing this for you and because of you. Thank you from all of us here at April.